If you walked into a bank in 2021 and told them you were earning $120,000 a year, you would have been treated like royalty. You were comfortably in the top 15% of the country, your borrowing power was massive, and the six-figure lifestyle actually meant something. But fast forward to April 2026 and the vibe has shifted. Today, $120,000 feels like the new $80,000. You're doing everything right. You've climbed the ladder, you've hit the big number, yet you're still checking the price of avocados and wondering why your savings account is barely moving. Today, I'm going to break down the math behind the $120,000 middle-class trap, the real-world data on what that money actually buys you in 2026, and the hidden move you need to make if you want to actually feel rich on a high income. Let's start with a reality check. According to the latest ABS figures from early 2026, the average full-time salary in Australia has officially crossed $106,000. Now, whenever we talk about averages on this channel, we have to talk about the mean trap. That $106,000 is skewed heavily by the mining sector and high-flying finance roles in Sydney and Melbourne. If you look at the median full-time salary, which is the true middle of the pack, it's actually closer to $90,500. So if you're on $120,000, you are still earning significantly more than the typical Australian. You are roughly in the top 20% of full-time earners. But here's why it doesn't feel that way. In 2021, the inflation rate was hovering around 2%. As of the March 2026 quarter, the CPI has jumped to 4.6%, driven by a massive spike in transport costs and housing. Since 2021, the cost of the essentials, things you can't opt out of like fuel, rent, and groceries, has risen by nearly 25%. When you run the numbers, a $120,000 salary in 2026 has almost the exact same purchasing power as a $94,000 salary did just 5 years ago. You've worked hard for those raises, but inflation has been running an invisible race against you, and it's winning. Then we have the tax man. On a $120,000 income, you aren't just paying more tax because you earn more, you're dealing with the 2026 version of bracket creep. Even after the Stage 3 tax adjustments, your take-home pay is roughly $88,000 after the Medicare levy and income tax. If you have an old HECS debt still hanging around, that $120,000 trigger means the ATO is taking 8.5% of your gross income just for your student loan. That's another $10,200 gone before you even see it. Your six-figure life is suddenly looking a lot more like a $77,000 life. But the real trap isn't tax or groceries. It's the bank. In 2021, a single person on $120,000 could walk into a bank and potentially borrow $650,000 or $700,000 at a 2% interest rate. In April 2026, with the RBA cash rate sitting at 4.1%, your borrowing power has been shredded. According to current lending data, that same $120,000 income might only get you a $480,000 loan today. Think about that for a second. In 2026, even on a top-tier income, you're effectively locked out of the median house market in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and even Perth, where prices have skyrocketed. This is the heart of the trap. You earn too much to be struggling by the official definitions, but you don't earn enough to buy the middle-class life of 20 years ago. So if $120,000 is the new baseline for just getting by in the big cities, how do you actually break out of the trap? The first thing you have to do is accept that the old benchmarks are dead. In 2026, six figures is a psychological milestone, not a financial one. If you're earning this much and still feeling poor, the first place to look isn't your grocery bill. It's your fixed costs. Most people on $120,000 fall into lifestyle creep without realizing it. Because you have a high income, you buy a slightly nicer car on finance, you move into a slightly better suburb with higher rent, and you say yes to more expensive weddings and weekend trips. In a 2026 economy, those fixed costs are what keep you in the trap. Here's the move that nobody talks about. The disposable income flip. In the old world, people focused on their gross salary. In the 2026 world, the only number that matters is your surplus. A person earning $85,000 who lives in a regional area or shares a house might actually have more disposable cash at the end of the month than a person on $120,000 paying a premium for a Sydney apartment and a car loan. If you want to feel rich on $120,000, you have to stop living the expected life of a high earner. This might mean keeping that 2018 Corolla for another 3 years instead of upgrading, or it might mean staying in a cheaper rental to funnel that extra $400 a week into an offset account or a diversified ETF. The reframe for 2026 is this. $120,000 is a fantastic defensive salary, but it is no longer an offensive salary. It's great for paying the bills and keeping the lights on, but it isn't enough to build wealth on its own anymore. You have to be intentional with the surplus. The hidden insight here is that the people who are actually thriving in 2026 aren't the ones chasing the next $10,000 pay rise. They're the ones who have frozen their lifestyle at the $90,000 level and are using the rest to buy back their time. If you're on $120,000, you've done the hard work of getting the income. Now you have to do the harder work of protecting it from inflation, from the tax man, and from your own expectations. Being middle class isn't about what you earn anymore, it's about what you keep. If you found this useful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.